We're here at TEDxBeaconStreet, and I'm sitting down with Michael Crickmore, biologist at Harvard Medical School. Michael, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
So tell me, what is the title of your talk, and what's it about?
Well, I called my talk Motivation, Selection, and the Mind-Body Problem because, and that might seem a ridiculous topic for my talk since I work on fruit flies.
Yeah.
But the people in my lab are, I think, curious at least, and maybe even partially convinced that these little flies can tell us a lot about how our brains work, and maybe even something about how the mind emerges from the brain, which is an enduring, really deep mystery.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting approach to this, which I agree with you. At first, it seems to make no sense at all, because it's about in your studying. What is it? You're also studying the sexual habits of these flies, right? So you guys are lighting candles, putting on some jazz music, letting the fruit flies out.
That's right. It's not too dissimilar from that. We study sexual behavior. I'm not very interested in sexual behavior myself, and honestly, I'm not that interested in insects either. We study it because if you look at the brains of any animals that have two different sexes, the brains are mostly the same, but they're a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And so it's those differences that are going to give rise to the differences between the behaviors that are different between males and females. So it just simplifies things that much further, really into simplifying things. So you take the simple brain of the fly, really tiny, you make it even more simple by studying neurons that are different between males and females. Yeah. So we're down to about maybe 3,000 neurons we're talking about that control the differences between males and females, and those behavioral differences are mostly sexual. They do different things in their mating habits.
So you say you have it down to 3,000 neurons. So for someone who's not in your field, is that a lot or a little? To me, it seems like a lot.
Well, there's maybe like 100 billion neurons in the human brain, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
And in the whole fly brain, maybe there's 200,000.
Okay.
So that's also a lot.
Yeah.
Less, but still a lot. 3,000 still is very complicated. Like you have neurons that are, so from the male's point of view, that try to tell, is that a female fly out in the world? And then should I try to mate with her? How do I do that? Neurons have to orchestrate all those behaviors. How do I find her? How do I try to court her? How can I tell if she's going to be receptive or not?
Yeah.
And then how do I carry out the mating behaviors? And so that's what we think a lot of the neurons are doing. And we're interested in those special ones that tell the male, is it worth it for me to mate with this female in the first place?
Yeah.
What is motivating me? Basically it comes down to, do I have enough reproductive fluid to make this effort worthwhile? Mm-hmm. And so that's the model we use for motivation. We find that there's a couple of dopaminergic neurons that drive this behavior. When they're active, the fly is chasing around. Females, when they're not active, he's not. And so we're really interested in how dopamine does this on this sort of simple circuitry, because we know in us that dopamine is controlling a lot of motivated behaviors.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you. So the idea, TED is about ideas worth spreading, and I know that the idea you're trying to spread isn't specific about flies. This is just sort of the mode we're getting here. So tell me, what is sort of the zoomed out? What is the idea that we're really trying to spread here?
Well, there's very few really fundamental mysteries that are left that we really don't have hypotheses for in science. We have hypotheses for how the universe started, how life started on Earth, are by no means totally solved, but you can come up with ideas.
Yeah.
Why does life feel like something is something that people have a hard time coming up with hypotheses for. And so it's a burning question in our lab. Can we bump up against that problem? Can we come close to addressing that kind of problem, to understanding, by understanding things like motivation in the fly, which in us we know are associated with these very intimate feelings, very strong feelings that we have, but we have a hard time describing what they are. Is there any chance that we'll stumble into some insight into that if we look deep enough into this really simple circuitry?
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for sitting down with me. Good luck simplifying it even further.
Thanks.
Michael Crickmore, his talk is called Motivation, Selection, and the Mind-Body Problem. You can check it out at TEDxBeaconStreet.com.